week and a half away from NFL Week 1. I could not be more excited. We will have NFL Week 1 picks and best bets next week. Be looking for that. But today we are going to talk about sneaky good playoff bets. And now what I'm not going to do is sit here and tell you, oh, I think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. Oh, I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. No, those guys are juiced up. The odds there are not in your favor. It is not worth betting. But what I am going to do is walk through a few picks of mine that I think really hold some value and where you can kind of exploit the odds a little bit. Before we get started, we appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to drop your best bets on who you think is going to make the playoffs. We love hearing back from everybody. We love that feedback. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to the video if you're watching. We do have big news coming up. We are going to rebrand, and we are developing a product that we hope to share with everybody here in the near future. So, some exciting stuff. I don't want to leak it a little bit too early and jump the gun a little bit, but be on the lookout for that. And we appreciate you guys if you subscribe and you've been with us throughout all of the Little Teasers days. We appreciate it. It's been fun, but thankfully, due to some recent success, we have some big moves coming. But nonetheless, let's get started. One thing I do want to talk about is the NFC compared to the AFC. There's a large discrepancy in overall team talent. And so with the NFC, there's a lot more wiggle room on teams that you think can really make the playoffs because, quite frankly, they're just not as good as a conference as the AFC. The AFC is really loaded up front. They have the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, who might actually be good this year, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills. I mean, it's really jam-packed on the AFC side of things. So I did want to bring that up first because really, if you want to get into the weeds with this, move your focus over to the NFC because really that's where you can exploit the talent mismatch in your favor. So, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And my first one that I want to discuss is the Falcons to make the playoffs. Yes or no is plus 110 on a lot of your big major books. And so I really like this. And they're priced the way that they are here because most books think the Saints are going to win the division, which is fine, but it's really close between the Falcons and the Saints. The Saints are projected at 9.5 wins. The Falcons are sitting at 8.5. So only a 1-win difference projection for those teams. I love the Falcons in this instance. I think they're going to actually win the division and get that guaranteed playoff spot, if not at least a wild card in the NFC. I say this because the Falcons have the easiest projected strength of schedule. They also upgrade at quarterback. I mean, nobody can really say for certain they know how Desmond Ridder is going to be, but I can promise you anything is better than Marcus Mariota. And I have a feeling a lot of you won't really disagree with me on that. But they got a generational talent in Bijan in the draft. They bolstered up both offensive line and defensive line. They're going to have a sneaky good trench on both sides of the football. And Kyle Pitts is healthy. Drake London is a dog. And, frankly, after that, it gets a little hairy. But they do have some underrated offensive weapons in the backfield. They obviously have Cordero Patterson. We just talked about Bijan. They have Tyler Algier, who was really a good running back last year. So I think this team is only going to elevate themselves. And I actually think they're going to end up winning that division. So positive juice on the money. I'm really loving the Falcons here. I think, I'm going to take the plus money wherever I can find it for this team. I think they absolutely take one of the 7 NFC spots. It just makes too much sense to me to not take them. So, Falcons plus 110, plus money, love it. Next one I want to talk about, the Seahawks. You're getting a little bit of juice now on these, but there's still some books that you can find even money for the Seahawks to make the playoffs. It's kind of crazy to me because I am shocked that, everybody thinks the 49ers are going to take the cake in this one. Everybody thinks they're going to win the division, and I just don't see it. I mean, look at all of the camp news that we're hearing. The 49ers are really going through a rough time right now with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance in the quarterback situation. Now they did bring in Sam Darnold, which is great. And I think he actually might end up being the 49ers quarterback when it's all said and done. But for that to happen, what is it going to take? Half a year of Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, more than likely Brock Purdy, to fail? Or are they going to be willing to pull Purdy a lot quicker than we expect? Will Purdy be on a short leash? I don't know. But the Seahawks could also lose their division and still take a wild card spot. And I think if you look at the landscape of the NFC, I don't see how they don't get in there, So that's kind of what we mentioned. They're right at 15, 16 in projected strength of schedule. I think this roster only upgraded. They drafted Jackson Smith-Njigba. Geno Smith was not an outlier performance last year. He absolutely can replicate that season, and I fully expect him to this year with a better offensive line and better offensive weapons. So, Falcons plus 110, Seahawks plus 100, even money. I'd love it. Subsequently, that makes me go to the 49ers. I think getting juiced money at plus 400 for the 49ers to not make the playoffs is kind of an interesting pick for me, because if I think that the Seahawks are going to win the division, I potentially, and not that they can't get a wild card spot, but the 49ers could slip up. We can see this play out. And I think the 49ers roster is a little bit too good to miss the playoffs, but I certainly don't think they're going to be what they were last year. So not recommending that, but it's interesting if you want to take a deeper dive into that, because they also have a little bit tougher projected strength of schedule, and they're a little bit more lean roster-wise. Another one I wanted to talk about in the NFC, Daniel Jones and the Giants actually have a good chance to be a contender in the NFC East. I think they will be better than the Cowboys. Obviously, hardly anybody can be better than the Eagles. They have the best roster. They have one of the best coaching staffs, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and arguably the best defense in the league. So Eagles will more than likely take the cake in that division. But we talked about the landscape of the NFC, and I think that the NFC East will have at least 2 playoff teams, if not 3. Now, I'm not a big believer in the Cowboys, but do they still have players that are worthy of getting them to the playoffs? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that the Giants at plus 165, great value. I think that snagging them at their spot to make the playoffs, I think there's no chance, that they swing and miss, Look at the team that they had last year. Look at them making it to the playoffs. Their team is better. Daniel Jones is under his second year in Brian Daboll, and they only upgraded the offensive weapons. Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, they get Sterling Shepard back potentially. They get Wan'Dale Robinson back potentially. So this, all in all, will be a really, really solid Giants unit. So Giants plus 165, put it on the board. I really, really like it. Again, we focus on the NFC East because the talent pool there in terms of teams are a lot less variant. The AFC is jam-packed, but with the AFC being jam-packed, it might not be that bad to attack it. And something that may catch a lot of heat is I don't necessarily think that the Jets are going to be as robust as everybody thinks they're going to be. And I know that's kind of crazy because a lot of people, as soon as Aaron Rodgers was traded, a lot of people actually immediately, went and bet on the Chiefs or the Jets to make the playoffs, or for him to win MVP, or for the Jets to win the Super Bowl. You name it. All those future bets, the Jets got peppered. But I think that there might be some learning curve going into it, and I think it may be year 2 before the Jets really take off into the team. So their odds at plus 160, 170, it's really, similar to the situation we talked with the 49ers, not necessarily sitting here recommending it's a great bet, but I would look into it. That's all I'm going to say. Same with the Dolphins, same with the Jaguars. Now, I think the Jags are going to inevitably win their division and get the auto bid, but, I think that there's a chance that one of these really good AFC teams gets squeezed out due to the nature of the talent pool in the AFC. So keep an eye on that. Look for those fringe teams. I think you can really find some value. If you find a team that you think may not be as good as everybody believes they will, that's value. So take it. The last one I want to talk about. One of the Packers or the Browns to make it. So a lot of people think the Lions are going to win the division, myself included. But I think that either one of the Bears or the Packers end up being the last NFC team, seed number 7 in the NFC. So they both have similar odds, really good juice money. Let me just double check before it changes. Plus 160, plus 170 for both of them, depending on which book you look at. I think that if you pick one that you like, whether you think the Bears are going to be better or the Packers, because I think it's really a coin flip at this point, but you pick one of those teams, I think that has good value because I think one of those teams are going to end up representing that last seed in the NFC and barely make it into the playoffs. And I think that they really have a chance to be a lot better than the Vikings this year. Even the Vikings may have an elite offense, but their defense was league worst last year in a lot of metrics. And they didn't upgrade. They didn't go out and sign anybody. They didn't draft anybody. So the Vikings will still have the league worst defense. And you've heard the same story. You saw how lucky they were to win those games. I mean, 8 of their games, won by a single possession in the last minute of each game. That's crazy. So that there's going to be some sort of regression to the mean that is not reproducible in a lot of ways. And I would be shocked if they even reached double-digit wins. And I think that the Packers or the Bears have good odds to sneak in and represent that last seed in the NFC just due to the talent pool of the NFC. So that's what I'm going to leave you at. Again, we could sit here, we can name the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, all of those same guys. But you already know that. If you're watching this, you already understand that those teams are more than likely going to make the playoffs. But we're trying to find value. And that's where I think the value is. So attack the NFC. That's where a lot of the ambiguity is. And that's what I'm going to do as well. Guys, we appreciate you listening. Check in next week for NFL Week 1 picks and best bets. See you guys next week.